Let me present you the new character we will be using called Trident. You will find in the chapter 5 file folder the file called Trident Rig Final. It's a new character rig that is quite more complex than one we had before. Fortunately, the UI has been properly organized by my friend Finn. If you don't get this specific UI, just open the text editor, open the tridentrigi.py, search for the file in the library and press the play button. The register option under text should be enabled. You will find a UI that is very close to what we had for the squirrel character and the mech, allowing us to show or hide the different controllers of the character, starting with the root bone as usual. But before, let's have a look at the outliner. We have a master collection called Trident Character, including two secondary collections, one including the rig and the other including the different parts of the character himself, but also the weapons he has. By default, the character is shaded in solid mode, showing its diffuse texture. You can switch to previs mode to see the full rendered character. If at some point you see a bright pink color, it means that one of the texture is lost. All the character textures can be found in the textures folder of chapter 5 folder. The texture path is set to relative, so if you keep your blend file close to the texture folder, you will never lose them. Let's have a look to the rig. For this rig, I've created two different routes, one master and a secondary route. It can be useful in certain cases. Let's have a look to the torso. We have a master controller as for our squirrel character, and then a controller for the hips and a controller for the chest. You will also find a controller for the neck and the head. All those controllers can be freely rotated, scaled, or translated. When activating the torso tweak layer, you will be able to access those yellow round controllers. These are tweaker bones that will allow you to modify the shape of each joint of the character. It's perfect to fix some poses or create squash and stretch effects. All the yellow controllers on the character are tweaker bones. This torso tweak layer also gives you access to secondary controller of the torso that uses forward kinematic for each joint. Splitting the hips controller into two parts, the chest controller into three parts, the neck and head in one part each. The face layer will give you access to the main face controllers, including the jaw, the nose, the mouth, the cheek, that can be moved individually to shape the face of the character at will. The eyes and eyebrow of the character have automated shapes. They can be moved up and down or on the local y-axis to get to different shapes, like a happy face, a frown, a surprise, allowing you to rapidly create different stereotyped expressions for your character. The face secondary will give you access to all the face tweaker bone, allowing you to shape the eyes at will, rework the brow shape, the jaw, whatever you want. By default, the legs of the character use inverse kinematic mechanism, meaning that if you move the foot, the knee will automatically bend. It's the same behavior we had with the squirrel character controllers. The pulse controller will allow you to orientate the knee at will. There is also a forward kinematic layer, and we will see how we can switch from inverse to forward kinematic a little later on. You will also find our yellow tweaker bones. The biggest one on the main joint, like the ankles, knee and hips, will allow you to reshape the whole leg based on its natural joint, while the secondary controllers will allow you to completely modify the shape of the leg to create rubber limbs, very nice for cartoony animations. There are also a couple of controllers to reshape the butt of the character. And we will find the same kind of hierarchy on the arm of the character. We will find shoulder bones as being the root of the arms, and then forward kinematic controllers, tweaker bones, etc. It's also possible there to switch between forward kinematic and inverse kinematic. We will check that in a few seconds when looking at the rig properties. The finger controllers are pretty straightforward. Near the pinky, you will find this master palm bone that will allow you to curve the whole palm of each hand. The thumb root will allow you to orientate the thumb, and each finger has its own master bone. On each finger, rotating the second joint bone will allow you to bend both the second and third joint. Finally, each joint can be rotated, scaled, and moved at will. The different weapons are all built the same way. You will find a master bone that more or less have the shape of the current weapon, allowing you to orientate it in space and move it. Then you will find a forward kinematic chain that is ideal to curve the weapons and give them nice shape whenever you are doing stylized animation. And as usual, the yellow bones will be our tweaker bones. Moving them will allow you to modify the shape of each joint of the different weapons. You can hide or unhide all the tweaker controllers and layers using the eye icon on the top right corner. Let's have a look to the rig properties. The head follow and neck follow sliders allows you to enable or disable the fact that the neck is following the orientation of the chest or not. It's the same principle regarding the head and the neck. If I disable the head follow and I rotate the neck, the head stays in the same orientation. This is super useful for dance animations or run cycles, for example. And we will find the same option for the arm and the legs. When enabling arm follow, we can see that now the arms are following the rotation of the shoulders, while when disabled, they will keep their own orientation, making it easier to stabilize their orientation. By default, the legs are set to inverse kinematic. This is perfect for any contacting controller, in this case, the legs contacting with the ground. But we can switch to forward kinematic by switching this value to 0. We can see the leg snapping into another position, following the orientation of the forward kinematic controller that can be enabled in the layered system. This can be useful to draw nice arcs whenever your character is making big jumps or kicking something, for example. We will find exactly the same mechanism for the other leg, but also for the arms. Setting the values to 0 will switch to forward kinematic, to 1 will switch to inverse kinematic. By default, the arms are using forward kinematic mechanism, but you can switch to inverse kinematic. Again, this is super useful whenever your character is contacting with something. When doing push-ups, for example, or interacting with another character. You will find the parent option for the legs and the arms. By default, the leg inverse kinematic controller are parented to the root, so they don't move whenever the torso is moved. And the pole target is independent. When switching the parenting value to 1, the pole will be parented to the foot controller, meaning that rotating the foot will also rotate the knee. This is the method I generally use. Switching the value to 2 will also parent the foot to the torso controller, but not to the hips. That can be useful whenever you make your character jump, for example. You will find the same option regarding the inverse kinematic arms controller, but only with one value that allows you to parent the inverse kinematic controllers to the torso root. Again, they won't follow the chest, but they will follow the torso root. I've built the same kind of mechanism for the weapons, allowing you to whether snap them to the left hand, right hand, or not snap them at all so that they can move freely in space. This can be useful whenever you want to throw the weapon, for example. The weapon emit option will allow you to play with the strength of the emission shader on the weapons. If you press play, you can see that the shader is currently animated, bringing a magical touch to those weapons. On top of this, you will find a weapon spawn option that will allow you to make the weapons progressively disappear or appear with a nice dissolve effect. As for the squirrel character, you will find visibility properties that allows you to hide different parts of the character, making its silhouette easier to read or allowing you to focus on specific parts when animating. Last but not least, you will find a snap utilities. This will allow you to change from inverse kinematic to forward kinematic and also align the controllers together, allowing a seamless switch between the two mechanisms. A disclaimer here, due to the complexity of the rig mechanism and the rubber limb system, it can be sometimes not 100% accurate. But the pose can be fixed in 1 second, and this is way faster than trying to align the controller by hand. I'm not used to have this in production, so this is really a bonus.